welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I'm going to be going through all of the books that I read in 2024, as well as going through the list that I made at the start of the year of the 24 books I wanted to read in 2024. I read 44 books last year, which my goal was 40, so I beat it by 4 books. I went through the video I made at the start of last year of the 24 books I wanted to read in 2024. Some of them actually changed throughout the year when I was like, there was a couple that I just weren't feeling anymore, or like I knew I wasn't going to get to them, so I decided just to replace them with books I would actually read. So kind of cheating, but whatever. So I'm going to go through all of the 24 books I showed in that original video, and then just let you know which ones I swapped out, and I will tell you which ones I've read, but I won't give ratings or whatever until I go through the list of all the books I read. These are in no particular order at all, it's just whatever I grabbed from the stack next to me. Death Cure, the third book in the Maze Runner series. I did read this one. There are 2 more books in this series. I think I'm planning on reading them in 2025. I do have a list that I've made of the 20 books I want to read in 2025. That will be the video coming out after this one, so stay tuned for that if you want to see what books I want to read in 2025. Inheritance Games I did not read. I ended up swapping this one in the list, so in its place I've put All the Bright Places. Didn't end up reading this either, so that's kind of a fail. Heartstopper Volume 4. I decided that I didn't read this one in 2024. I decided I'm going to wait until Volume 6 comes out, which is the last volume. When Volume 6 comes out, I'm decided I'm going to reread the first 3 and then read 4, 5 and 6, just because it's been 2 years at this point since I read the first 3, and I also want to read the whole series again so I can watch the show, because I've watched the first season of the show, but then I didn't end up watching 2 or 3 because I didn't want to get spoiled for the graphic novels. So that one is another one that I replaced throughout the year. I decided to replace it with Song of Achilles. This one I did finish. My friend and I started this book as a buddy read in August of 2023. It took us a year and a half to get 150 pages in, I think, and then it took us 5 hours to finish it. Caraval, I didn't read this one. Magnolia Parks, I didn't read this one. The Naturals, I didn't read this one. In the original video, I put the other 3 books in this series, so Killer Instinct, All In, and Bad Blood. I think those are the next 3. Those were all on my TBR for 2024. I don't own those other 3 books, so I just decided I'm not going to put them on. So I replaced this one with... I didn't replace this one. I replaced the other 3 with Reckless, which I did read, the second book in the Powerless series, actually. I might as well just pull that. Powerless, I did read it. The 3rd book in this series I replaced with Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, which I did read. And then the last book in this series I replaced with ACOTAR, which I didn't get around to reading, but I will be reading it in 2025. Pride and Prejudice in the City, I did read. Good Girl, Bad Blood, and As Good as Dead, I did read. Last Graduate, Golden Enclaves, I did read. So the Twilight series, I had the main 4 books as well as the Bree Tanner novella. I ended up just reading Twilight and New Moon. So 2025, I still have to read Eclipse, the Bree Tanner, the Bree Tanner novella, and Breaking Dawn. I might just read Eclipse and the novella and then leave Breaking Dawn to 2026, I think. I have the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I read Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm in 2024. Didn't get around to Ruin and Rising, but I did finish this in January. So this goes to my 2025 reads, which is lovely. And then the last book on the list of books I wanted to read for 2024 was Shadow of Night, the second book in the Discovery of Witches series. I didn't read it in 2024, but I did start it in January 2025, and I've still got 100 pages left. I've kind of put it on the back burner for now because I have a couple of other books I wanted to read and finish before that. So I'm gonna finish it eventually. I should finish it in February, potentially. But that's it for the first part of this video, the 24 books I wanted to read in 2024. I read 14 out of 24, which is fantastic. Don't know what that is as a percentage. That's 58%, so basically 60%, which is very good. So I'm very proud of myself for that. Hopefully in 2025 I'm able to read at least 75% of my list, so I need to have finished 15 by the end of the year. Now I'm going to go through the 44 books I read in 2024. I will be going just in order of how I read them, just because I feel like that's easier than jumping back and forth of like doing it in order of my favorites. Like, nah, I'm just gonna do it in the order that I finished them. I'm gonna give you the star rating I gave for them. So here are kind of the stats for my 2024 reading. So I read 44 books, 30 of them were physical, 7 were digital. One of those digital ones, I do have the physical copy of it, but I read it through Libby on my phone, so I'm going to count it as digital because that's how I consumed it. And then 7 audio. Okay, let's get into the 44 books I read in 2024 in order of when I finished them. The first book I finished was We'll Always Have Summer, which is the third and final book in the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. I didn't really like this trilogy. I don't know, I did like that the audiobook had the actress that played Belly as well as Jeremiah and Conrad. They actually did the audiobook for their characters, that was fantastic. But just the content of the books, I didn't really vibe. The third one I gave 3 stars. And then I read The World Between Blinks. I gave this 3 stars. It's kind of this is a middle grade, so it's not the most engaging thing in the world, but I did enjoy it. The second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series by Holly Jackson, Good Girl, Bad Blood, I gave this one 4.25. Pride and Prejudice and the City by Rachel Lippincott. I gave this 4.5 stars. I actually finished this on my birthday, so. Hello? Oh shit. I didn't even see that leaning. Okay. Jesus Christ. Devil Wears Prada. I'm scared now. I gave this 4 stars. I need to rewatch the movie because I haven't seen the movie in years, but the book was pretty good from what I remember. Last Graduate, the second book in the Scholomance series, I gave 4.75. I think this was my favourite book of the trilogy. I just feel like I can hear it. Hold on, let me fix this because it's going to fall on me again. Oh, now this space is bare. Whatever, I don't care. Although I gave this 4.75 stars, the series as a whole is probably like a 4-star series. Like, it's not, I don't know, it's not my favourite series, but it was pretty good for what it was. Then I read Powerless, which is my one and only 5-star read for 2024, which I kind of expected. As I annotated it, I think this is the first one in the list that I actually annotated, but I loved it. You'll see later that I also read a couple others in the series, and the third book in the series, Fearless, comes out the first week of April, I believe. So that's in like 3 weeks. I'm very excited. Next is Shadow and Bone, the start of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I gave this 3.5 stars. My dad and I do this thing called Wine Night, where it's usually Monday, sometimes it changes. Usually Monday, we sit down, grab some wine, watch some Netflix or whatever. Usually we watch Gogglebox, but when Gogglebox isn't on, we just kind of watch whatever. So we wanted to watch the Shadow and Bone. Well, I've been wanting to watch Shadow and Bone for ages, like since the show came out, but I knew that it was based on a book series and I wanted to read the book series first. So I said to my dad, I was like, let me read the first book and then we can watch the show. Before watching season 2, that I would read the second book, but it turns out that season 2 of the show actually follows the plot of book 2 and 3, and I hadn't read book 3 when we watched the second season, so I was very upset when they started talking about the Firebird and going to find the Firebird, and I was like, hold up, that's the third book. So yeah, I'm a little upset, but 3.5 stars. Not bad, just, I don't know. I know people love the Shadow and Bone series, but I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be more of a Six of Crows girly, which I do have the duology and I do plan to read in 2025, but that's another story. The next book I read was The Music of Bees, which quite surprised me because this is one of the books sitting on my shelf. I've been sitting on my shelf for years and I just never touched them. I don't know. It really surprised me. I gave it 4.25 stars. This was one of the highest rated books of the year for me. Like, it was just so poetic and I really enjoyed it. I don't see myself wanting to reread many books just because, like, I have so many books I want to read that why would I reread a book I've already read, you know? Does that make sense? But this one I could actually see myself rereading and potentially boosting the rating of it, potentially. Then I have the third and final book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. This one I gave 3.75. My only complaint with this book is that it was too long. I think it was like here in the book. And something happened and honestly I would have been okay if they just ended it there. Like, they didn't need all of this. Like, it really didn't. Some of it was just so long and it really didn't add to the story and it just could have been cut down a lot. So I gave it 3.75 stars. I don't remember what I rated. Yeah, so the first book was 4.5 and then it kind of just went downhill for me. Next I have Call of the Wild, which is my lowest rated book of the year. I gave this 2 stars. It is a Scholastic's classic collection. Don't think you can see, but you can see in the background of some of my other videos I have a little collection. I got a set of, I think, maybe 15 of these Scholastic classics and I want to read them all eventually because they're all quite easy to get through, except for Oliver Twist. That was 500 pages of boring, but this has I don't know, it was just a little, it was just like animal and dog death and like for a book that is 160 pages, I did not want to finish it. So yeah, 2 stars. I would give it 1 star, but I don't know why I didn't give it 1 star actually. I gave it 2 stars. Whatever. The next book I read, or the next 2 books I read were audiobooks. They are the first and second book in the Bridgerton series. So The Duke and I and The Viscount Who Loved Me, which lines up to the first and second series of the show, but I did watch the first 3 seasons before reading the books. I have actually read the book for Benedict's story, so when season 4 comes out I already know what happens. Do I remember? Not really, but I have read it already, so. I gave The Duke and I 3.5. It's not bad. I think the show does the story a lot better. The Viscount Who Loved Me, I also gave 3.5 stars, and looking back at it the other day, I was like, why did I give it 3.5 stars? Like, that story is way better than Daphne's story. So I ended up boosting it to a 4. Anthony and Kate, oh my god, they do it so well in the show, but the book is so good as well, so I highly recommend the book for that. The next one is the first book in his Dark Materials. This one is Northern Lights. I do want to finish this series just because my dad and I have watched the whole show. Like, I wasn't really that into the show. I gave this 3.25 stars. Like, not my favourite, but like, I would want to finish the series, if that makes sense. We've got the third book in the Maze Runner series. I gave this 3 stars. I did annotate this one, actually. I do own the 4th and 5th book, which is Kill Order and Fever Code. I want to read both of them in 2025. I don't know if I'm going to get around to it, but they are on my list. The second book in the Artemis Fowl series, this is The Arctic Incident. I gave this 3 stars. This is another middle grade type thing. I have the whole box set, so I read the first book, Artemis Fowl, in 2023, and then I read the second one in 2024, and I do plan to read the third one, whatever the name of that one is, in 2025. I think I'm just gonna, you know, read one of them a year, and then eventually in 6 years time I will have finished the series. I then read Twilight, which I gave 4.5 stars. I know people bag on Twilight, like they bag on it, and I get it because some of it is goofy as fuck. But the first book, even the first movie I watched, because I haven't really, as I said earlier, or like in the 24 books I want to read in 2024 video, holy fuck, how many times am I going to have to say that? In that video I said wasn't really a huge Twilight fan, which was true. But after reading this book, I was like, I have to watch the movie. So that's my little thing now, like I read the book, watch the movie. I did the same with New Moon, which you will see later in this video. It was just so good. Ah, it was so good. Next book I read is an indie published book by an Australian author that I found on TikTok maybe 2 years ago. She does have a second book out, and I think maybe her third one is out. I'm not sure. I do want to continue the series, but like it's not priority. Like if I get to it 3 years from now, that's fine. But I'm just going to focus on the books I have now. That was Silver Valley. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. It's very heavy. In like weight wise, not content wise. It's like a sci-fi fantasy type thing. I don't remember like much about this, but I read it and I gave it 4 stars, so I must have enjoyed it at least a little bit. The next book I read was Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This is the second Ali Hazelwood book I've read. I read The Love Hypothesis last year and I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4.25. I do want to read the rest of Ali Hazelwood's books. Like I want to read Bride, I want to read, Love on the Brain, Love Theoretically. I want to read all of them. I just don't own them, so I'm not going to focus on that right now. And then the next 3 books are the next 3 books in the Rainbow Magic kid book series. So Crystal the Snow Fairy, number 8, Abigail the Breeze Fairy, number 9, and then Pearl the Cloud Fairy, number 10. Within this series there's like 200 books, but within the series there's shorter groups of books. So the first 7 books are the Rainbow Fairies, which I read 2023, and then the Weather Fairies I read 2024. The next 2 books I read digitally. They are manga volumes. They are Komi Can't Communicate volumes 1 and 2. I've been wanting to read this manga for a little bit, and then I saw that there was a Netflix, like an anime of it, and I was like, I want to watch that, but I wanted to read the books first. So I would recommend Komi Can't Communicate. I do like it really, like, a lot. The next one I read is The Golden Enclaves, the 3rd book in the Scholomance series. I gave it 3 stars. Not my favourite, but I'm happy that the series is finished. I actually completed a few series in 2024, and I will be continuing to complete series in 2025, which is lovely. I'm slowly getting through all of Karen McManus's books. This one is Two Can Keep a Secret. I gave this 4 stars. Down here I have One of Us is Lying, One of Us is Next, and You'll Be the Death of Me, which are the 3 other books I have read by her. I actually read 3 of her books in 2024. I will be getting to the other 2 a little bit later, but it's nice. I think I have 2 more of her books. I have Nothing More to Tell, which is on my list, I think, to read in 2025, and then I have Such Charming Liars. But all the physical editions of Such Charming Liars are like the big ones, and I'm like, I don't want that, because all the other copies of the books are these small normal size ones. So I'm waiting until Such Charming Liars comes out in this before I can read it, or if I find a version on Libby, but I don't know. The next 2 ones are volumes 3 and 4 of Komi Can't Communicate, so not much to say about that. And then I read An Offer from a Gentleman, which is the 3rd book in the Bridgerton series. It is Benedict's story, which I don't know why they decided to go Daphne, Anthony, Colin, and then Benedict, even though canonically in the books it's Daphne, Anthony, Benedict, Colin. But whatever, at least now when season 4 comes out, I already know what happens because I've already read the book. I gave it 3.5 stars. Not my favourite, but not bad. Then I read Siege and Storm, the 2nd book in the Shadow and Bone series. I gave this 3 stars. Like, I don't like Mal. I know that Alexander is not, or like the Darkling is not a good person. Like, he is morally grey. He's a morally grey guy. But he's Ben Barnes, so like, yeah, he's hot. Anyway, next book I read digitally, which is another Karen McManus book. It is One of Us is Back, which is the 3rd book in the One of Us is Lying trilogy, I think. So that's a series I finished as well. But I gave One of Us is Back 4 stars. I quite enjoyed it. It was cool. It was nice getting back into the series. Like, Karen McManus's books, easy to read. Like, they're so easy to follow. Like, her writing is just so easy and it's really nice to read. So I will continue to be reading her books, even though they're all quite similar. Like, there's always a murder of some kind involved, and mostly it's with teenage. I think like all of her books have been with like in high school, which I don't really mind. I watched the show as well. The show's pretty good. I don't really remember. I think the show might be better than the books. I don't know. The next book is the last Karen McManus book I read for the year. This is The Cousins. This is the one where I said that I own it physically, but I ended up reading it digitally. So this actually counts as for my digital count because I didn't crack this open and read it. I read it on my phone. So I gave that one 3 stars. So not my favourite Karen McManus, but not bad. And then I explained before I read Song of Achilles. I gave this 3.75 stars. I feel like if we read it quicker than a year and a half and I had annotated it and like underlined quotes and stuff, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Like, my friend cried at the end of this and I would have, I don't know, if like, yeah, I feel like if I reread it and really immersed myself and like annotated it and whatever, I would have loved it a lot more and probably cried. But because we just took so long to read it, I just wasn't as involved. Then I read the novella that comes between Powerless and Reckless. I gave this 4 stars. This is basically just kind of a retelling of Powerless, but in Peyton's best friend Adina's point of view, and like you get her story and like whatever. And what's his name? Kai? No, Kai is in Powerless. Mac. I love Mac. It wasn't as good as the first one because it's a novella. It's not a full story. And then I have the start of another series, which I did start and finish in 2024. So that's really good. I actually finished it like within a month. It is To All the Boys I Loved Before. I gave the first one 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed it, but like the movie's better. I'm sorry, the movie is better. And then we have Reckless. I gave this 4.25, so I liked it slightly more than Powerful, but not as much as I loved Powerless. But all I know is that the 3rd book comes out in a couple weeks and I'm very excited. So hopefully, actually not hopefully, you will be seeing that in my end of year wrap up. You will be seeing it. And then the next 2 are 2 more books in the fairy whatever series. Goldie the Sunshine Fairy and then Evie the Mist Fairy, which is books 11 and 12. And then I read the 2nd book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before series, P.S. I Still Love You. I gave it 3.5. And then I read the last 2 in the Weather Fairies whatever series, books 13 and 14, Storm the Lightning Fairy and Haley the Rain Fairy. Not very interesting. And then I read Volume 5 of Comic Can't Communicate, the last book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before series, Always and Forever Lara Jean. I gave it 3 stars. Not my favourite. The first book is just... And then the last book, the 44th book that I finished in 2024 was New Moon. So I gave the first one, I gave Twilight 4.5 and I gave New Moon 4. I did really like New Moon. I do like the New Moon movie. Simply, I think I do really like Jacob. Before reading the books, I was like, I don't know how people are team Jacob. Like, I don't get it. Like, obviously Bella is in love with Edward, and yeah, that does come across in the books as well, obviously. But in the movies, you just don't get the connection that Bella and Jacob have. Like, when Edward goes and literally leaves her in the forest and she goes into a depressive episode for months. But yeah, like they in the movie they don't include like Bella and Jacob going out into the woods to find the meadow and like all of that. And I know Bella's only trying to find the meadow to feel connected to Edward, but like it was a really cute moment between Jacob and Bella, like them exploring, and like it was completely cut out of the movie. Like you don't even hear about it, I think. From memory, you don't even hear about it. But anyway, I'm very excited to continue with that series. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to get around to reading Eclipse and Breaking Dawn just because those are chunky books. But I do want to at least finish one of them in 2025. But yeah, that's all the books I read in 2024. I am very proud of myself because I did read a lot off of my physical TBR. I did buy a couple of books in 2024, but that's neither here nor there. I will talk about my overall reading goal and whatever for 2025 in my next video, which will be the 20 books I want to read in 2025. That will be my next video if you want to watch that and have a look at what books I want to read. Some of the books I didn't read in 2024 in that list will be on the 2025 one, but I have included a lot of new ones, so if you're interested in that, go watch that video. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have much more to talk about. If you enjoyed this video, click like and press subscribe to see more from me. Comment down below what your favourite book of the year was, and I might check it out and potentially read it in 2025. Who knows? Not me. I have no idea what I'm going to read this year. Bye!